All right, so welcome to the African History Network show right here on 910 AM Superstation, the Future Radio. I'm your host, Brother Michael Imhotep. It is Sunday, May 22nd, 2022, and we are live. So if you follow me on Facebook, some people saw the picture that I posted of Malcolm X on Thursday. May 19th was Malcolm X's 97th birthday, born May 19th, 1925 in Omaha, Nebraska. And on my show Thursday, we talked some about his by any means necessary speech, June 28th, 1964, announcing the formation of the Organization of Afro-American Unity. So we're going to talk about that some more on today's show. And he laid out a five-plank platform, and it also included economics, and it included politics as well. I hear a lot of people saying that Malcolm was against voting or things like this. You need to study Malcolm after he left the Nation of Islam. That's not true. We're going to deal with that on today's show and look at his by any means necessary speech, June 28th, 1964. Okay, now also, I did a broadcast earlier today and taught my Sunday online class, from the Civil War to the Civil Rights Movement and Black Power, 1865 to 1968, from the Civil War to the Civil Rights Movement and Black Power, 1865 to 1968. That's the class I teach on Sundays. But I saw three big articles. It's a whole series from the New York Times dealing with Haiti and the history of Haiti, and Haiti having to pay Haiti having to pay reparations to France, okay, going back to 1825. So, and this ties into some of the information in the Sunday class that I teach, because we deal with the Louisiana Purchase of 1803 and the Haitian Revolution, okay, and those are connected. But New York Times has they've done some fantastic research, and they deal with Haiti paying reparations to France and the damage that is done to Haiti. They have one article that deals with the ransom demanding reparations. Let's see, what is this? The ransom demanding reparations and ending up in exile, okay? And it talks about former Haitian President John Bertrand Aristide, who was demanding reparations from France to Haiti, and he ended up being exiled by France and the United States. We know the U.S. military, just a second, we know the U.S. military invaded Haiti in 1915. All right, sorry about that. We know the U.S. military invaded Haiti in 1915 and stole $500,000 worth of gold out of Haiti's bank. Okay, but we're going to talk some about this today. I saw on MSNBC they had a story dealing with Haiti, and then also PBS NewsHour has a good segment Haiti and dealing with this report from NBC, from the New York Times. There's also a good article, 6 takeaways about Haiti's reparations to France. 6 takeaways about Haiti's reparations to France as well. Okay, so you have that. So this is a really good one here that I read through. I was reading a lot of these articles dealing with Haiti today. Okay, so we'll talk some about that as well. And this is directly tied to Haiti's conditions today. Okay, this is directly tied to Haiti's conditions today, and being one of the poorest countries, especially in the Western Hemisphere. Well, it's because of foreign interference and having to pay France the equivalent of $560 million in today's dollars. So that's what that is the result of. All right, so we'll discuss that. And then I was on Roland Martin Unfiltered on Friday. One of the things we talked about was we talked some about the Buffalo, New York shooting. And we know that 2 of the people who were killed, they had funerals for them this weekend and they were laid to rest. We know the suspected shooter, Peyton Gendron, he was indicted on Friday. So we talked about, he's indicted on Thursday, I should say. He was indicted on Thursday. Well, when I was on Roland Martin Unfiltered on Friday, we talked about Democrats in the House of Representatives passing the Domestic Terrorism Prevention Act, the Domestic Terrorism Prevention Act, as a result of the Buffalo, New York shooting. Okay. The vote was 222 to 203. Only 1 Republican out of 204 Republicans voted for the bill. That was Republican Adam Kinzinger of Illinois, I think it is. Only 1 Republican out of 204 voted for the Domestic Terrorism Prevention Act. So we discussed this on Roland Martin Unfiltered. We also talked about the COVID-19 Hate Crimes Act that people incorrectly call the Asian Hate Crimes Bill. It's not an Asian Hate Crimes Bill. It's the COVID-19 Hate Crimes Act. It only applies to COVID-19 related hate crimes. It's not specific to Asian Americans. It also applies to African Americans. The problem is we don't read and don't understand law. We don't read it all. Okay. It's illegal to have programs or federally funded programs or laws that apply only to one race of people. And that is because of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Okay, that's Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. If you go to archives.gov, they have it right at archives.gov, Civil Rights Act of 1964. We have it right here. We're coming up on a break, but I'm going to show this to you because our people don't read and we're just walking around deaf, dumb, and blind. And most, if your friend, if your friends, if you're sharing misinformation with your friends and none of y'all are doing research to determine the validity of the information, you need to get yourself some new friends. I'm just going to put it like that. Okay. But if we look at this here, and I want to go to Title VI. Title VI of the 1964 Civil Rights Act, section, it's Title VI, section 601. Section 601 of the 1964 Civil Rights Act deals with federally funded non-discrimination and federally funded programs. Let me pull this up right here. A second. This is at archives.gov. Archives.gov is the U.S. National Archives, and it has the you can actually read the bill there. This right here. Okay, this is what I want right here. And then if we go to, I want to go to Title VI, Section 601. Okay, so I hear people, they say they want bills only for African Americans. You do realize that's illegal, right? Did you consult with like any attorneys or anything? Did you consult with anybody that drafts laws, anything like that? That's illegal. It's upon the 1964 Civil Rights Act. And it's right here, Title VI, non-discrimination in federally assisted programs, non-discrimination in federally assisted programs, Section 601 of the 1964 Civil Rights Act. No person in the United States shall, on the ground of race, color, or national origin, be excluded from participation in, be denied the benefits of, or be subjected to discrimination under any program or activity receiving federal financial assistance. We'll deal with all this on the other side of the break and Malcolm X's 97th birthday. Listen to the African History Network show. I'm Michael Imhotep. We'll be back in a few minutes.
The work that I do is larger than the fashion industry. It's larger than the art world. And I believe that I was born to bring newness into this world. I'm Kaima McIntyre. I'm 24 years old and I'm an artist. I create everything from paintings to jewelry design, metaphysical jewelry to be specific, and fashion design. The only reason why my prom dress went viral is because people needed it. Within a few days of going viral, Notori Naughton reached out to me and she's like, I saw your dress, can you make me a dress? I was equally as shocked to be asked by a celebrity to design their dress at the age of 17. That's just one person, and the list just continues to go on, to Janet Jackson, to Tyra Banks. It really hits home. That means that the discussion is happening on the grounds in real time.
Welcome back to the African History Network show right here on 910 AM, the Superstation, the Future Radio. I'm your host, Brother Michael Imhotep. It is Sunday, May 22nd, 2022. And we are live. Calling numbers 313-778-7600, 313-778-7600 is the calling number if you have a question or comment. All right. So right before the break, I was going over the topics we're going to talk about on today's show. And then there was one other one here. Let me see. Also, we're going to be joined at the bottom of the hour. We're going to be joined by Greg McKenzie, who's the treasurer for the African Liberation Day Planning Committee here in Detroit. And we know African Liberation Day is celebrated May 25th, but it's coming up. It's going to be celebrated here in Detroit Friday, May 27th, and Saturday, May 28th. So I'll be speaking at on the 28th over at Al Kibalan Village. So Greg McKenzie will be here to give us some information about that as well. Okay, so on the African History Network show, we focus on educating, empowering, and inspiring people of African descent throughout the diaspora and around the world. Because right now it's correct wrong behavior. What you do for yourself, what you do to yourself, and what you allow other people to do to you and get away with is based upon what you think about yourself. What you think about yourself is based upon what you have been taught about yourself. What you've been taught about yourself is based upon everything you've read, heard, and seen about yourself. So when you control the radius of a man or a woman's thoughts, you can control the circumference of his or her actions, because the mind can't do or teach what it doesn't know. Now, we deal with a number of different topics here on the African History Network show. We deal with current events and history and politics, education, economic empowerment, entrepreneurship, relationships, love, sex, health issues, and much, much more. Sign up for our email newsletter. Text the word Kemet, K-E-M-E-T, to 22828 to sign up for our email newsletter. Also visit our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. Sign up for our email newsletter there as well. Okay, so Thursday was Malcolm X's 97th birthday. We talked about this on our show. We know that two of the men who were convicted in Malcolm's assassination, they were exonerated. In November 2021, they were exonerated because information that would have exonerated them was withheld from their trials. We know the FBI was involved in this as well. J. Edgar Hoover, counterintelligence program. This is an article we talked about back November 18th, 2021, and actually it was updated December 7th, 2021. For the New York Times, highlights from the push to exonerate two men in Malcolm X's killing. And this talks about Muhammad Aziz when he was his conviction was vacated. Motion to vacate convictions finds that crucial evidence was withheld. Motion to vacate convictions finds that crucial evidence was withheld. A motion by the Manhattan District Attorney at the time, Cyrus R. Vance Jr., asking a judge to toss out convictions of Muhammad A. Aziz and Khalil Islam in the murder of Malcolm X concludes that crucial evidence crucial evidence was withheld during the men's trial. The 43-page motion, which was granted a hearing on Thursday, described in detail the investigation conducted by the district attorney, Cyrus R. Vance Jr. At the time, he retired, and the men's lawyers. It concludes that evidence withheld by the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the FBI, and the New York Police Department had been given to the defense. The trial would if it had been given to the defense, the trial would likely have gone differently. So they were exonerated. So check this out. So on Thursday's show, one of the things I talked about was June 28th, 1964, and Malcolm's speech, which is called his By Any Means Necessary speech. Okay, by any means necessary. And he announces the formation of the Organization of Afro-American Unity. Now, this is after he goes on his Hajj to Mecca, and after he travels to 14 African nations and meets 11 heads of state. But he delivered this. Now, this is after he officially separated from the Nation of Islam. He officially separated from the Nation of Islam March 8th, 1964. We know March 26, 1964, Malcolm meets Dr. King for the first and only time. When he meets Dr. King, he tells Dr. King, "I'm throwing my heart into I'm throwing my all of my effort into the heart of the civil rights movement." If you read this article here from the Washington Post, Martin Luther King Jr. met Malcolm X just once. The photo still haunts us with what was lost. And by Deneen L. Brown, really good article. When Malcolm meets Dr. King, he tells Dr. King, "I'm throwing myself into the heart of the civil rights struggle." Okay, we know Malcolm joins the civil rights movement after he leaves the Nation of Islam. We know he goes to speak to SNCC down south, January, February 65. He goes to Alabama. He wants to meet with Dr. King, but Dr. King's in jail. So Malcolm meets with Coretta Scott King. All right. When Malcolm was in the Nation of Islam, he was calling for July 31st, 1963. He sends a letter to the leading civil rights leaders asking for a meeting with them. And he was calling for a unification of the civil rights leaders. He was calling for a unification of the civil rights leaders and their followers. Malcolm said that we have to find a common solution to a common problem posed by a common enemy. And he was calling for a united front involving all Negro factions, elements, and their leaders. He said it's absolutely necessary. He said if Nikita Khrushchev and President John F. Kennedy could come together and set aside their tremendous ideological differences, he said it's a disgrace for Negro leaders not to be able to submerge our minor differences in order to seek a common solution to a common problem posed by a common enemy. Okay, so read the rest of that. All right, now here Malcolm lays out in this the script here, the speech. This is from blackpast.org. Blackpast, P-A-S-T, blackpast.org. They have about 6,000 pages of articles dealing with African history and African American history. This is his speech he delivers June 28th, 1964, announcing the founding. This is the founding rally of the Organization of Afro-American Unity. Okay, so while in Ghana in May of 64, he decided to found this organization. We know that he meets Maya Angelou while he's in Ghana. Maya Angelou is going to come back to the U.S. and help and work with Malcolm in the OAAU also. All right. Malcolm returned to New York the following month to create the OAAU. And on June 28th, gave the first public address on behalf of the new organization at the Audubon Ballroom in the Washington Heights section of Manhattan. So they have the speech here. Now, he lays out a five-plank platform. It deals with education, deals with economics, politics, things like this. You can read this. So He talks about one, establishment of the organization. The Organization of Afro-American Unity should include all people of African descent in the Western Hemisphere, as well as our brothers and sisters on the African continent, which means anyone of African descent with African blood can become a member of the Organization of Afro-American Unity, and also any one of our brothers and sisters from the African continent. Okay, so he lays that out. Then he goes into let's see here. He goes into, 3 is education, and 2 is self-defense. Since self-preservation is the first law of nature, we assert the Afro-Americans' right to self-defense. So read that. It talks about the U.S. Constitution, right to bear arms, things like this. Do that legally. Okay, so then he deals with education. Education is an important element in the struggle for human rights. It is the means to help our children and our people rediscover their identity and thereby increase their self-respect. What you do for yourself, what you do to yourself, and what you allow other people to do to you and get away with is based upon what you think about yourself. What you think about yourself is based upon what you have been taught about yourself. What you've been taught about yourself is based upon everything you've read, heard, and seen about yourself. So he goes on to say, education is our passport to the future, for tomorrow belongs only to the people who prepare for it today. So then the fourth platform, the fourth plank in the platform, politics and economics. Okay. And he says the two are almost inseparable because the politician is depending on some money. Yes, that's what he's depending on, or she. Basically, there are two kinds of power that count in America: economic and political power, with social power being derived from those two. In order for the Afro-Americans to control their destiny, they must be able to control and affect the decisions which control their destiny: economic, political, and social. This can only be done through organization. So then he talks about registering people in Harlem to vote as independents. Okay. And he talks about the independent voter, the Organization of Afro-American Unity. He talks about the need for a voter registration drive. The Organization of Afro-American Unity will organize the African-American community block by block to make the community aware of its power and potential. We will start immediately a voter registration drive. To make every unregistered voter in the Afro-American community an independent voter. Now, keep in mind, this is before the completion of the party realignment between the Democratic and Republican Party that takes place mid-late 60s. He says we won't organize as Democrats or Republicans, etc., but it's independents. But he talks about the need to understand politics and also to vote and get something for your vote as well, to vote strategically. So read the rest of this here. When we come back from the break, we're going to be joined by Greg McKenzie of the African Liberation Day Committee here in Detroit. You listen to the African History Network show. I'm Michael Imhotep. We'll be back in a few minutes.
IDO Network International, in collaboration with STL Black Woman, DACA, and ACTA, present the Royal Pilgrimage to the Americas, August 24th through the 28th. The African kings and queens are coming to you for business, networking, and sharing of Pan-African ideals. The venue will be the illustrious En Garde Arts Hotel in St. Louis, Missouri. A royal cultural experience and exhibitions, trade and investment opportunities in Africa, the Caribbean, and the Americas. A Royal Pan-African Summit hosting keynote speakers, and a red carpet banquet. Come and witness an African royal coronation ceremony. Register at www.idonetwork.org to book your ticket to wine and dine with African royalty. Vendor opportunities available. Get face-to-face with the royals who own the land and resources for business. Contact DACA for deal room information at 602-730-4572.
Welcome back to the African History Network show right here on 910 AM, the Superstation, the Future Radio. I'm your host, Brother Michael Imhotep. All right, it is Sunday, May 22nd, 2022. And we're joined by Greg McKenzie. And Greg McKenzie is the treasurer of the African Liberation Day committee here in Detroit. They always do some great work and have good celebrations for African Liberation Day. So I've been to a number of them and spoken at a number of them as well. So we want to welcome back to the African History Network show. He's been on before. Greg McKenzie. Hotep, Greg, how you doing today?
Hotep, brother Mike, how are you, man? I'm great.
All right, excellent. Well, look, it's that time of year again, and African Liberation Day is coming up. So first of all, for those who don't know, may not be familiar with it, explain to people exactly what is African Liberation Day and what are we celebrating?
Right on. So African Liberation Day, the idea in and of itself has its origins in the extremely long history of fighting to free ourselves from European domination, white supremacy, and the oppression that besets us wherever you find African people on the planet.
Right.
And so, as you were talking about the history around the formation of the Organization of African Unity back in 63 and
yep.
the subsequent events that come out of that, African Liberation Day had its first inaugural celebration held in 1972 in Washington, D.C., as a very strong push toward continuing to consolidate our energies and our power towards liberating ourselves wherever we find ourselves on the planet. Right. And so there were celebratory elements, sure, but it was also a very serious occasion toward organizing and towards effectuating that liberation.
Okay. All right. Excellent. So the celebration is coming up this year. So normally it's the official African Liberation Day is May 25th. Okay. Which coincides with May 25th, 1963, and the organization of the Organization of African Unity. Okay. But African Liberation Day, we celebrate May 25th each year. So that's the official African Liberation Day. Now, the celebration, the Detroit celebration, explain to people when and where that Detroit celebration is taking place.
So here in the D, you can celebrate African Liberation Day on May 27th and 28th. And it's generally, and that's a Friday and a Saturday. And for us, annually, it's the Friday and Saturday before the holiday Memorial Day.
Right.
That folks celebrate. So that Friday and Saturday preceding Memorial Day is always African Liberation Day here in Detroit. So this Friday is at the Charles H. Wright Museum from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m., but the marketplace opens at 4.
Okay.
So the African marketplace is a huge part of African Liberation Day. We're talking about cooperative economics, sustaining ourselves, liberating ourselves, having our own space will require us to be able to do business with each other and maintain the things that we need for our survival.
Right.
So the African marketplace presents a flavor of that. And then, of course, on Saturday, we're over at our Kibalan Village. And it's an all-day celebration with many, many moving parts. So we can talk about that in more detail as we continue.
Okay, so what Kibalan Village, give people the address and what time is the event on Friday and Saturday. Friday is at the Charles H. Wright Museum of African American History. Saturday is at our Kibalan Village. So give people the location for our Kibalan Village and let's
sure.
give us the times also.
Absolutely. So the location, as you all know, for Friday at Charles H. Wright Museum, 315 East Warren. Mm-hmm. That's going to be 6 p.m. to 8 p.m.
Okay.
As far as the keynote and the actual program, but the marketplace opens at 4. Malik Yakini is the keynote this year.
Okay.
And he's going to talk to us about
D-Town
our
Harvest Farm,
political education.
Yeah, D-Town Harvest Farms, Malik Yakini. Yep, and Black Food Security Network. Exactly. We've had him here on the show before.
Absolutely.
Okay, so he's the keynote speaker.
And most recently, Detroit People's Food Co-op, which is making a big splash in the city on behalf of Black people as a Black-led food enterprise that will have tremendous implications in the near future.
Right, exactly. So he's the keynote speaker. And now, what's this year's theme? What's this year's theme for African Liberation Day?
So this year's theme is political education.
Okay.
And I want to back up and tell people 7701 Harper Avenue is the address to the Cuban Village. And so that's right at the intersection of Harper and Van Dyke.
Right.
And that's going to be 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. Saturday, May 28th. That's indoor and outdoor, weather permitting. If the weather don't permit, we'll be indoors. We got plenty of space at the village to do so. But we would love to have the sunshine on our face and enjoy some of our culture and celebration outside.
Okay. All right. So this year's theme is political education. I know Malik will talk about that on Friday. Friday is 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. Friday, May 27th, Charles H. Wright Museum of African American History. Also, you all can visit ALD.org, African Liberation Day, ALDdetroit.org for more information.
ALDdetroit.org.
Say again?
No, at first you said ALD.org, but you said it the second time, ALDdetroit.org.
Yeah, ALDdetroit.org. Yeah, and we have it up here on the screen. ALDdetroit.org is their website. Now, on Saturday, explain to people what's taking place on Saturday over at Al-Kibalan Village. Sure. And once again, the times on Saturday are, was it 11 a.m. to 5 p.m.? I'm looking at the flyer here. 11 a.m. to 5 p.m.
Okay. Yes. So what you will encounter on Saturday, African Liberation Day, we take it back to its origins. Again, like we said, it was about organizing people, getting people into the liberation struggle. Many of the folks who were at the helm of that celebration in 72 were very advanced politically. They had a very clear analysis of where we stood and what our objectives should be. And they wanted to pull more and more people into that struggle and help them to get up to that speed. So one of the ways they did that was through a march. Okay. And so every year for African Liberation Day, we kick it off with a symbolic march. We're not marching to the distance and the degree that they marched at that time, but we would do a symbolic march around our neighborhood at Al-Kibalan Village and bring folks from the neighboring streets into the program with us that way and come back. And once we get started after the march, the very first thing that we're going to do is get into some learning circles.
Okay.
And so with the theme being political education, we tapped into the brain thrust of our community. Good folks like yourself, Brother Michael Imhotep,
right,
and some of my other brothers and sisters in the community who have pertinent information to share will convene small circles of people to have brief learning circle discussions. And so these will be 45 minutes to an hour long, where folks will sit in small groups of no more than 9 in a circle, literally, with the chairs organized in that way. And there'll be different topics,
right,
i.e., women-based liberation theories, or gun violence, or the African origins of Russia, or racism, white supremacy. All of these different ideas and topics, right, will be discussed in these small groups. And, that will happen right after the march. Once we come from that, then we'll get into some celebration. We'll have some youth performances. Al-Kibalan Village will do martial arts. Our new African drum and dance troupe will do their always beautiful brand of cultural entertainment. And then we'll go back into another round of those learning circles. And the idea is to put strong emphasis on the theme, political education. Right. And in large part, the organizers this year at the committee table, we came to a conclusion that it's very important to infuse the political education element into the African Liberation Day celebration and gathering, because we have to continue to sharpen our analysis to the degree that our people who initiated this thing back in the 70s analysis was sharp. I don't know that I ain't going to say we fell off from that point, but what I'm saying is there's always room for improvement, and I love to see us continue to take those as they say, whole steps towards Hotep.
Okay, we only have 2 minutes left in this interview. So, number one, everybody go to the website alddetroit.org, alddetroit.org for more information. It's free to attend this both days, right? It's free to attend both days?
Free to attend both days.
Okay. Now, are you looking? You're going to have African Marketplace there Friday and Saturday. Is there still room for vendors, or being a vendor, is it closed?
African Marketplace is open still. You need to contact Mama Neptis in order to make sure that you can secure a spot. Do I have time to provide her phone number?
Go ahead. Yep.
Okay, so her phone number is 313.
Yep, 313.
Yep, and I'm actually pulling it out of my phone as we speak. 313-995.
Okay.
3579.
Okay, 313-995-3579 to be a vendor. And they may have some contact information possibly on the website also, but that's the number to call to be, if you want to be a vendor, 313-995-3579. They'll discuss the details with you. I'll be there speaking.
$75 for both days.
Okay, $75 for both days. I'll be there speaking on Saturday. I'll be a vendor on Saturday also. So I have my DVD lectures. I'll register people for my online classes. You can come talk to me also. So Greg, look, thanks for coming on today. Is there a general number people can call for information also for people that may not have? Yeah, what's that number?
Sure. If you want more information, you can call me directly at 313-578-1300. Again, that's 313-578-1300.
All right. Greg McKenzie. All right, Greg, look, man, tell everybody over there, Marvis Cofield and everybody at the African Liberation Day Committee, Baba Olagun and Elder Olagun and Paul Taylor and everybody, keep up the good work, and we'll see you all Friday and Saturday, okay? Okay.
Right on. Thanks for having us on the show, Mike.
All right, brother. Peace. Take care. All right, we'll be back. We'll be back from break in a few minutes. Listen to the African History Network show. I'm Michael Imhotep. When we come back, we're going to talk some about Haiti and why Haiti had to pay France $560 million in reparations in today's dollars. You listen to the African History Network show. We'll be back in a few minutes.
What does self-care mean to you? To us, it's an opportunity to reconnect with nature. A chance to create something remarkable. At Sage and Elm Apothecary, our handcrafted skincare and household products immerse you in Earth's sweetest nectar, connecting you to nature in a way you never imagined. See for yourself and visit us at sageandelmapothecary.com.
iRedify is a Black-owned digital platform that showcases Black and Brown cultures and people. The books on the platform are written by African American authors, Afro-Caribbean authors, African authors, and so much more. Kids 14 and under can read ebooks, listen to audiobooks, and complete learning activities. Kids can even write in the books digitally. Get unlimited access to everything on the platform for only $8.99 a month at iRedify.com. Sign up for your membership today. Welcome back to the African History Network show right here on 910 AM Superstation Future Radio. I'm your host, Brother Michael Imhotep. All right. I want to go to our next segment here. So we talked about this on our show on Wednesday and Thursday, and actually Tuesday, I told you that this was coming when we were leading up to this. The House of Representatives, Democrats in the House of Representatives, passed the Domestic Terrorism Prevention Act, and this was as a result of the Buffalo, New York mass shooting. House passes bill targeting domestic terrorism in wake of Buffalo mass shooting. So for people who were sitting around and saying, well, what are they going to do? What are they going to do about what are they going to do about domestic terrorism? What are Democrats going to do? Things like this. Okay, so this is what Democrats were doing. Republicans were voting against the bill. Only one Republican out of 204 who voted for the bill. The bill passed 222 to 203. 222 to 203. The only Republican who voted for the bill was Adam Kinzinger, who is also on the January 6th committee. He's one of the two Republicans on the January 6th committee, Adam Kinzinger. Okay, so he voted for this bill. Now, as I talked about earlier in the week, you had some House progressives, and Axios.com had an article on this. You had some House progressives who were apprehensive about the bill, but they got assurances that civil rights, First Amendment rights, things like that would not be violated, because people like Cori Bush, they were concerned about surveillance in the African American community, etc. Okay, and rightfully so. So we talked about this also on Roland Martin Unfiltered. I'm going to clip one in just a second here, Jalen. We talked about this on Roland Martin Unfiltered. But if we look at this very quickly, the House on Wednesday passed legislation that would create domestic terrorism offices across 3 federal agencies, spurred by alarm over the rise in incidents of homegrown violent extremism in recent years, spurred by the rise in events of homegrown violent extremism over the years, in recent years. Representative Bradley Snyder pushed for a vote on the bill known as the Domestic Terrorism Prevention Act. The Domestic Terrorism Prevention Act, in the wake of Saturday's mass shooting at a supermarket in Buffalo. In the 11 of the 13 people shot were African Americans. Okay, we know this. 2 have been they have funerals for this weekend. They buried them, and authorities are investigating the incident as a hate crime and the case of racially violent extremism. A case of racially violent extremism. Now, the measure was approved 222 to 203 to vote. One Republican, Representative Adam Kinzinger, joined all Democrats present in voting yes. The legislation's future remains uncertain in the Senate, where Democrats have the slimmest of majorities, and a unanimous vote on similar legislation was blocked by Republicans 2 years ago. We need to call our members of the U.S. Senate, put pressure on these Republicans to vote for this bill. Okay, now, also, so read the rest of this. Okay, read the rest of this article. House passes bill targeting domestic terrorism in wake of Buffalo mass shooting. House passes bill targeting domestic terrorism in wake of Buffalo mass shooting. NBC News has a story on this as well. The one from NBC News is after Buffalo, House Democrats to tee up vote on domestic terrorism bill. Okay, now, also, the Department of Justice announced measures to combat hate crimes as well. Okay, there was a press conference on Friday that Attorney General Merrick Garland had, and he discussed this. So there was an article from National Public Radio. I saw number one, I saw the press conference, and I saw a couple of articles on this also. There's an article from the National Public Radio. The Justice Department is releasing new guidelines. Let's see. Justice Department is releasing new guidelines, grants to fight hate crimes. Okay. And this article came out Friday, May 20th. This one right here. So at whitehouse.gov, they should have, the White House's YouTube channel, they should have the press conference. I know they probably have it at NBC News's NBCnews.com. The Justice Department is releasing new guidelines, grants to fight hate crimes. And this is from National Public Radio. Justice Department is taking new steps to raise awareness about hate crimes and to help raise awareness about hate crimes and to help develop states and to help states develop hotlines for reporting bias incidents as federal prosecutors continue federal prosecutors continue to investigate last weekend's deadly shooting in Buffalo, New York. 3 top leaders at the Department of Justice are set to unveil new guidelines and $10 million in new federal grants at an event in Washington on Friday, where they will appear alongside family members of people slain in hate-filled incidents. Okay, now, let's see here. Okay, so you can read this. The FBI reported a disturbing rise of hate crimes against Black and Asian Americans in 2020. The Justice Department has convicted more than 30 defendants on federal hate crimes since January 2021. But experts said the vast majority of biased crimes go unreported to authorities. The vast majority of violent crimes go unreported to authorities. Oftentimes, there could be a language barrier. The Biden administration's new action is intended to reach out to people who don't speak English and people who have limited access to the internet, people who don't speak English and people who have limited access to the internet. The Justice Department's new head of the Office of Access to Justice, Rachel Rossi, had previously coordinated a response to hate crimes in the government and will continue to offer oversight on those issues. Okay, now the FBI reported disturbing. Let's see. Also, this week, the NAACP released a plan calling on the administration to do more to police social media companies that fail to address hateful and violent content on their sites, and to push Congress to pass gun safety measures. We'll continue this on the other side of break. Listen to the African History Network show. I'm Michael Imhotep. We'll be back in a few minutes.
What does self-care mean to you? To us, it's an opportunity to reconnect with nature. A chance to create something remarkable. At Sage and Elm Apothecary, our handcrafted skincare and household products immerse you in Earth's sweetest nectar, connecting you to nature in a way you never imagined. See for yourself and visit us at sageandelmapothecary.com.
Welcome back to the African History Network show right here on 910 AM, the Superstation, the Future Radio. All right. Calling numbers 313-778-7600. 313-778-7600 is the calling number if you have a question or comment. Okay, so right before the break, and I'm having problems here with Google Chrome. This is freezing up on me. But we were talking about the Domestic Terrorism Prevention Act that passed the House of Representatives by a vote of 222 to 203. That was Wednesday, if I remember correctly. And then also the article I was looking for from National Public Radio. Here's the main article that I wanted, because this I think this is the main article I wanted. The Justice Department is releasing new guidelines, grants to fight crime, to fight hate crimes. Okay, so check this one out as well. And there was also one from I have to find the other one that I saw dealing with this as well, but this is dealing with what the Justice Department is doing. Okay. We talked about this on Roland Martin Unfiltered. We're going to clip one here, Jalen, in just a second. We talked about this on Roland Martin Unfiltered. And one of the things Roland did was he went through with the COVID-19's Hate Crimes Act. It's not the Asian hate crimes bill. That means you didn't read the bill. It's the COVID-19 hate crimes bill. Okay, we need to read more of this stuff, seriously. Because our people just walking around deaf, dumb, and blind and just repeating just nonsense and have no clue what they're talking about. All right. So also in the earlier in the show, I showed you the from the Civil Rights Act of 1964. This is at archives.gov. U.S. National Archives. Okay, this right here. This is why you cannot have race-specific programs, policies from the federal government. You want things that are only for black people. That's illegal. Why? It's based upon the 1964 Civil Rights Act. We haven't read any of this stuff, so we don't know this. we just going around just repeating nonsense. We haven't read any of this stuff, so we don't know this. Okay. Title VI, non-discrimination in federally assisted programs. Title VI, non-discrimination in federally assisted programs. Section 601. Okay, this is at archives.gov. All this stuff is at the Library of Congress website, loc.gov, U.S. National Archives, archives.gov. All this stuff is there. Bills, laws, all that stuff. U.S. Constitution, everything. Okay, so if you go to right here, Title VI of the 1964 Civil Rights Act, non-discrimination in federally assisted programs. No, Section 601, no person in the United States shall, on the ground of race, color, or national origin, be excluded from participation in, be denied the benefits of, and let's see if we can increase the size of this. I want everybody to see this. So I hear people, in like, if you're going to put out like a black agenda that deals with policies, did you consult with attorneys that have experience crafting policies to make sure the stuff is legal that you're proposing? I'm just curious. Did you consult like with attorneys to make sure what you're proposing is legal? No person in the United States shall, on the ground of race, color, or national origin, be excluded from participation in, be denied the benefits of, or be subjected to discrimination under any program or activity receiving federal financial assistance. Okay, that's 1964 Civil Rights Act. All right, so we discussed this on Roland Martin Unfiltered on Friday, May 20th. Let's go to this clip, clip number one, Jalen.
So, Michael, let me, for the people out there who pay no attention, who can't read or refuse to read, okay, this is, are y'all seeing it in the control room? Are y'all seeing it on my iPad, please?
Thank you.
This is the actual bill.
Yes.
It is called the COVID-19 Hate Crimes Act.
Surprise, surprise.
What it's called. The Act. Okay? Now, let me go through the bill here, and here's the deal. It says, this act may be cited as the COVID-19 Hate Crimes Act. Cited as. Now, there were people who's called it the Asian Hate Crimes Bill because, yes, in the bill, it says Congress finds the following. Following the spread of COVID-19 in 2020, there has been a dramatic increase in hate crimes and violence against Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders. And it goes through here and it labels those particular things that happen. Okay? Then it says, in general, what the law does. It talks about applicable. Here's the guidance. The Attorney General shall issue guidance for state, local, and tribal law enforcement agencies pursuant to this act to, number one, establish online reporting of hate crimes or incidents, and to have online reporting that is equally effective for people with disabilities as for people without disabilities, available in multiple languages and determined by the Attorney General. Does it say Asian only? No, it doesn't. It says collect data disaggregated by the protected characteristics described in Section 2249 of Title 18. Expand public education campaigns aimed at raising awareness of hate crimes and reaching victims that are equally effective for people with disabilities and for people without disabilities. Does it say Asians only? No, it does not. And if you actually go through here and you actually keep reading it, it will show you again who this applies. Oh, what does this say right here? In 1990, Congress enacted the Hate Crime Statistics Act to provide the federal government, law enforcement agencies, and the public with data regarding the incidents of hate crimes. The Hate Crime Statistics Act and the Matthew Shepard and James Byrd Jr. Hate Crimes Prevention Act have enabled federal authorities to understand and, where appropriate, investigate and prosecute hate crimes. And if you keep reading, Y'all, here's the bill. And I keep going. And I keep going. And allow me to keep going. Y'all are seeing the actual bill. Do you see anywhere in the bill where it says Asians only? Nope. Pacific Islanders only. Nope. Nope. I'm still scrolling, Michael. Still scrolling. Still scrolling. And yet we've got these folks who are running around who are saying, oh, this bill is only for Asians. What does this say? Adopted a policy on identifying, investigating, reporting hate crimes. Develop a standardized system of collecting, analyzing, and reporting the incidents of hate crime. Establishing a unit specialized in identifying, investigating, and reporting hate crimes. And it goes on and on. And it goes on and on. And it lays out. Now we're at the end. So for everybody out there who keeps tweeting me this bullshit, okay, this only applies to Asians, I just showed you the actual bill and what it does. It cites the attacks on Asians, which precipitates the bill. The attack on James Byrd precipitated that bill. The attack on Matthew Shepard precipitated that bill. So can we please stop this ridiculous act of, oh, this only applies to Asians? And then all you fools who say, oh, the money that was allocated, we can't apply for it. Yes, we can. All you got to do is apply.
Well, so Roland, okay, so I've gone through that bill also on the African History Network show. I'm glad you showed that. That's at congress.gov. Everybody needs to go to congress.gov. That's one of the most powerful websites there is, because this is where you go, one, to actually read what's in the bills, so you can stop listening to these simple Simon ass people on social media who have absolutely no clue what they're talking about, who are just lying to you and pimping you. Number one. Two, you can actually see who voted for the bills and who voted against the bills. So if you're a member of the House of Representatives and you're 2 members of the U.S. Senate keep overwhelmingly voting for bills that you advocate for, why the hell would you let them get voted out of office? If you're 2 members of the U.S. Senate or 1 or 2 members of the Senate and you're a member of the House of Representatives keep voting against bills that you advocate for, you need to organize and vote their asses out of office. But this goes even deeper, Roland. Number one, you're correct. The name of the bill is the COVID-19 Hate Crimes Act. It only applies to COVID-19 related hate crimes. It does not apply to race-related hate crimes. That's another thing that people don't understand. If you actually read the text of the bill, not only does it apply to any race or ethnicity, it only applies to COVID-19 related hate crimes and not race-related hate crimes. This is something else that these backward-ass people get wrong because they don't read. Now, if we look at the bill, the Domestic Terrorism Prevention Act, which just passed the House of Representatives, I think it was Wednesday. I talked about this on the African History Network show. That bill passed 222 to 203. 203 Republicans in the House of Representatives voted against the Domestic Terrorism Prevention Act that came back up as a result of the Buffalo, New York shooting where 10 African Americans were killed. Only one Republican voted for the bill. Representative, go ahead.
Let's explain, Michael, let's explain why. That so-called Asian hate crime bill, if you actually read it, it ain't a lot in it.
It's not. It's weak.
It's really a bill about reporting. Okay?
Yes.
So people like, ooh, they swiftly passed it. Well, why do you think they swiftly passed it? Because it ain't nothing in it. Now, the bill they just passed actually has a lot more teeth in it and deals with it. And then, of course, and then all the people, ooh, some fool, Uncle Roro working hard for the Democrats. No, dumbass, I'm working hard for black people. Because here's the deal. The bill that's passed has an impact on black people. Now, if you saw you simple Simons out there, if y'all want to see them play this game, you can see, here's the game they're playing, Michael. They ain't passed nothing for us. Then they pass a bill dealing with domestic terrorism. Oh, well, you just sitting here speaking for the Democratic Party. Well, who the hell just passed the bill?
Well, let's go even deeper,
You just said how many Republicans voted against it.
203. 203.
So but here's my whole deal. It's 2 parties. It's 2 parties. Who the hell gonna vote for or against? So if somebody say, oh, you're tired of the Democrats, did they pass the bill? These the same simple Simon Negroes who go, the CBC, they ain't doing nothing. They got this bill passed. Now it goes to the Senate.
There's a lot.
Now what you whining about? See, You can't satisfy these folk because all they got to want to do is whine about something, as opposed to this was a bill passed in the wake of the Buffalo shooting.
Exactly.
What's today, Friday? The bill was passed yesterday. That means it was passed 5 days after the shooting. How long did the Voting Rights Act take? And the Civil Rights Act, the Fair Housing Act.
It took 9 years for the Voting Rights Act. It took 9 years for the Voting Rights Act.
I can't deal with these people who refuse to understand how Congress works. This is why we got to have Schoolhouse Rock 2.0 and 3.0 for these simple Simons who get on social media and spread lies and get folks riled up. They ain't doing nothing for us, but the Asians got a bill when, hell, it didn't even only apply to Asians. Go ahead.
Well, not only that, Roland, we can go even deeper. If people just Google how have the policies of the Biden-Harris administration helped African Americans or helped Black people, the first hit that comes up is a 19-page document at whitehouse.gov that was posted February 28, 2022, that breaks down category by category how the policies of the Biden-Harris administration helped the African American community. Everything from I've dealt with this on my show. This is why we have to go through. We do need politics for simple Simon ass Negroes. We do need that. Because there's a whole lot of them just out here listening to a bunch of dumbasses on social media that have large followings who are just lying to our people and pimping them, okay? But if you go through that document at whitehouse.gov, another one of the most powerful websites there is, because all this stuff there is at whitehouse.gov, the official website of the White House, it goes through category by category, everything from the American Rescue Plan to the infrastructure bill, the $5.8 billion for HBCUs in 2021, which is a record number of funding that HBCUs have gotten. All this stuff is there. But Roland, it gets even deeper. When you look at, first of all, there were 3 Republican co-sponsors of the Domestic Terrorism Prevention Act. Because of changes that were made, because you had representatives like Cori Bush, progressives like Cori Bush, and other progressives who had a fear that this could then allow the federal government to do more surveillance among African Americans, things like this. There were changes made to the bill to accommodate them. The 3 Republican co-sponsors voted against the bill that they co-sponsored. And then you had Representative Steve Scalise. This is how duplicitous these Republicans are and why they need to be voted out of office. Representative Steve Scalise, House Minority Whip out of Louisiana, Republican. He urged members of his party to vote against the legislation. But this is the same Steve Scalise whose life was saved by 2 Black Capitol Hill police officers when his ass got shot. And he voted against this bill that would help protect African Americans against domestic terrorism. All these traitors need to be voted out of office.
Yeah, I mean, but again, so the reason we do this show is people understand. And so if you're complaining about the domestic terrorism bill that was just passed, clearly you've read nothing. Now we should be focused on making sure these senators get off their behinds and actually move on that particular.
So we have to push it through. We have to push it through the Senate also. Definitely. Okay. So that's from Roland Martin Unfiltered on Friday, May 20th. Follow Roland on Facebook and YouTube, Roland S. Martin. Also download the Black Star Media app. I'm on every Friday. You can watch Roland Martin Unfiltered there and watch me there on Fridays. Okay, now the article that I was referencing, 2 quick things here, and then I want to go to Haiti, the Haiti topic. So early in the week, I talked about this article from Axios.com. Buffalo shooting spurs congressional response. May 17th, 2022. Also, we'll go to the phone lines, 313-778-7600. We'll go to Walter here in just a minute. So this article here is from May 17th, 2022, which was Tuesday, May 17th. This was before the vote took place. It gives some background information on the bill. The Domestic Terrorism Prevention Act put on ice last month, which would have been April of 2022, amid objections from progressive lawmakers, will be taken up Tuesday by the House Rules Committee. The panel's chair, Representative Jim McGovern, Democrat of Massachusetts, told Axios, he said, I think it takes an urgency on I think it takes on an urgency given current events. Now, when Biden spoke in Buffalo, New York, spoke there on Tuesday, if I remember correctly. He spoke there on Tuesday. This is one of the things that he should have mentioned. I said when I did our show on Tuesday, we covered Biden's speech there. And yes, it was good to denounce white supremacy and things like this, but Biden should have talked about other things that are taking place, that are happening. And yeah, he called for assault rifles to be banned again, things like this. But he should have talked about this Domestic Terrorism Prevention Act that was coming up for a vote this week in the House of Representatives. Now, Representative Cori Bush, Democrat of Missouri, some other progressives and groups, including the American Civil Liberties Union, last month, April 2022, voiced stringent objections concerned about government targeting and surveillance of civil rights activists and other left-wing groups. Cori Bush indicated Monday, May 16th, that many of her concerns have been smoothed over in negotiations since April 2022. Now, the bill's 207 co-sponsors include 3 moderate Republicans, though every Republican on the House Judiciary voted against the bill advancing in April 2022. Okay, so read the rest of this. The 3 moderate Republicans who co-sponsored the bill, they backed out of that. They backed out of it after changes were made to appeal to the progressives. They backed out. Only 1 Republican voted for the bill. Okay, so remember this, when they come talking to you for election time, and we're in the election season now, they come talking to you. See, I go to congress.gov. Congress.gov, we can look at the bills and see who voted for the bills and who voted against the bill. So you got to run that on somebody that doesn't read. All right, now the other thing that I mentioned was this document here that we talked about before. If you just Google how have the policies of the Biden-Harris administration benefited or helped Black people, African Americans, a 19-page document that was posted February 28th, 2022, which is the update to the one they had up October 2021, fact sheet. The Biden-Harris administration advances equity and opportunity for Black people and communities across the country. This is at whitehouse.gov. Okay. And this goes through category by category and breaks down how the policies from the Biden-Harris administration are helping African Americans, everything from the American Rescue Plan to the infrastructure bill. We know the American Rescue Plan cut childhood poverty for African Americans by 33%, lifting more than 1 million Black children out of poverty in December 2021. We know in 2023, when we get the new Congress, Democrats have to increase how many Democrats are in the Senate so you can break the filibuster. If you get the 55 Democrats in the Senate, then you can change the filibuster rules, even if Manchin and Sinema vote against you, because you can change the filibuster rules with 53 votes. Okay. And you can nullify Manchin and Sinema's vote. This is understanding strategy and how to remove obstructions, how to remove obstacles. The $1.9 trillion American Rescue Plan, no Republicans in the House of Representatives or the U.S. Senate voted for this bill. No Republicans voted in the House of Representatives or the U.S. Senate voted for this bill. The bill had money to hire teachers, to open schools back up, to pay for new ventilation systems in schools, so you can have smaller rooms and less children in the classrooms. They can sit spread out apart. You have Republicans who were saying, open the schools up. When it came time to vote for a bill that would fund opening the schools back up, every Republican in the House and the Senate voted against the bill. We know Republicans are not pro-life, they're pro-birth. We know Republicans are not pro-life, they're pro-birth, because this past week, also, if you've been paying attention, you know, there was a bill. It was like $28 million, $24 million, and that was to to provide relief when it comes to baby formula. All right, 192 Republicans voted against the bill in the House of Representatives. 192 Republicans voted against the bill. And this is dealing with being able to provide baby formula. So they're not pro-life, they're pro-birth, because after you're born, they don't care about you. And we can see this by how they vote. You vote against the American Rescue Plan, and that cut child poverty by about 40%, 33% for African Americans. You vote against money to open schools back up and provide proper ventilation systems and things like this. Okay. So if we go back and look at this one right here, and I've got the article from the Washington Post. I have to find it that dealt with the vote dealing with baby formula. So read this. So it goes through and looks at American Rescue Plan, the infrastructure bill. Infrastructure bill is huge. Okay. Only 19 Republicans in the Senate voted for the infrastructure bill, and it was a bipartisan bill. Only about 14 Republicans out of over 200 voted for the infrastructure bill in the House of Representatives. The lack of investment has fallen most heavily on Black and other communities of color. The bipartisan infrastructure bill will replace lead pipes like Flint, Michigan. There were 3,000 communities that had higher lead levels than Flint, Michigan. Many of them have high African-American populations. It would increase. There was a study that came out during the Flint water crisis that talked about this. Increase access to good paying jobs, expand affordable high-speed internet. 25% of African-Americans live in rural areas, don't have access to high-speed internet. It'll increase reliable transit, clean drinking water. Very important right here. Reconnect neighborhoods divided by legacy highway infrastructure and other resources to finally give Black communities a fair shot at the American dream, because part of the bill is going to help to repair communities that were separated because of the U.S. Interstate Highway Acts of 1952 and 56, which drove 41,000 miles of U.S. interstate highways across the country and disrupted about 1,600 African-American communities. Go read the rest of this. This is a 19-page document. It goes through category by category and shows you how the policies from the Biden-Harris administration are helping the African-American community. And these bills that pass Congress, most of the time, the majority of Republicans vote against these bills. You listen to the African History Network show. I'm Michael Imhotep. We'll be back in a few minutes.
IDO Network International, in collaboration with STL Black Woman, DACA, and ACTA, present the Royal Pilgrimage to the Americas, August 24th through the 28th. The African kings and queens are coming to you for business, networking, and sharing of Pan-African ideals. The venue will be the illustrious En Garde Arts Hotel in St. Louis, Missouri. A royal cultural experience and exhibitions, trade and investment opportunities in Africa, the Caribbean, and the Americas. A Royal Pan-African Summit hosting keynote speakers and a red carpet banquet. Come and witness an African royal coronation ceremony. Register at www.idonetwork.org to book your ticket to wine and dine with African royalty. Vendor opportunities available. Get face-to-face with the royals who own the land and resources for business. Contact DACA for deal room information at 602-730-4572.
Welcome back to the African History Network show right here on 910 AM, the Superstation, the Future Radio. All right. You can still register for the online history class I teach on Saturdays and Sundays, Ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Ma'afa, Understanding the Transatlantic Slave Trade, what they didn't teach you in school. We deal with thousands of years of history and what leads up to the transatlantic slave trade taking place. I do a PowerPoint presentation. We have book references, articles, video clips. We do the sessions live. All the sessions are archived and recorded. You can go back and watch it anytime. You don't have to be present in class. A year from now, 2 years from now, you'll still have access to it, so you can go watch the full course. Okay, so that's at AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. We also have a bundle pack. You can register for all three classes that I teach. We have a bundle pack for $120. That's a $285 value. On Sundays, I teach from the Civil War to the Civil Rights Movement and Black Power, 1865 to 1968. We talk some about Haiti today in the class, as well as the Louisiana Purchase. So we have that information at AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. Okay, very quickly here, let's go, before we get to the Haiti topic, let's go to the phone lines. Let's go to Walter, line one. Walter, welcome to the African History Network show. Thanks for holding. Tell us where you're calling from.
Yeah, calling from Ann Arbor.
Ann Arbor, Michigan. Okay, go ahead, Walter. Thanks for holding.
First question is, which political party owed X reparations? Second question is, what is your view of the job that Joe Biden is doing right now?
You said what? The first question you said, which political party owes reparations?
Yeah, which one do you think, if we would get blacks to get reparations, which political party do you think owe us reparations? And number two, what on a scale of 0 to 10, what would you grade Joe Biden right now at this point?
Well, both political parties will owe reparations, but reparations come from the federal government, not a political party. And for the majority of the time that slavery existed in this country, there was no Democrat or Republican Party. The Democratic Party was founded in 1828. The Republican Party was founded in 1854. So the majority of the time that slavery existed, chattel slavery ended in 1865. The majority of the time that slavery existed in this country, you didn't have a Republican or Democratic Party, but the reparations would come from the federal government. It would not come from a political party. To go to your next question, you go to your second question, what on the scale of you said 0 to 10?
Yes.
I would give him an 8.
Okay. Can I give him I got a good grade for him. Mm-hmm. On the scale of 0 to 10, mine is 1 million. And I know you've been on here about 7, 8 years.
You said you said I want to make sure I understand what you said. You said minus 1 million?
Yes, as well as Barack Obama, the two worst presidents America's ever had. And you've been on this for 7, 8, 9, 10 years, and you're still talking.
No, I've been on 6 years. No, I'm not dealing with racism. Okay, this is dumbass Walter. Thanks for calling, Walter. Have a good day. Thanks for calling. See, that's dumbass Walter. Okay, he said Joe Biden and Barack Obama are the worst, and then he said I'm talking racism. No, I'm dealing with facts and evidence. See, Walter doesn't read. That's why. And then, I mean, you can tell something's wrong. He said, which political party owes reparations? If you actually understand history, which he does not, the majority of the time that slavery existed in this country, you didn't have a Republican Party or a Democratic Party, and many of the founding fathers were against Republican parties. Walter doesn't read. Okay, this is what happens when you call in here and you deal with somebody like me that actually understands history and does research, and that's what happens. See, now Walter hasn't read this document right here at whitehouse.gov because he doesn't read. I just dealt with this. He didn't even want to talk about that. Notice he didn't want to deal with no facts. He just want to deal with nonsense. So that's why, we don't have time to deal with that. But that's how I deal with trolls like him. Go read this article, Lil Walter, then call me back. The Biden-Harris administration advances equity and opportunity for Black people and communities across the country. Is at whitehouse.gov. Oh, we talking about race because we talking about the White House. You can't talk about race. It goes through category by category and shows how the policies from the Biden-Harris administration are helping the African-American community. Walter didn't want to deal with that. Okay. He wanted to come on here and clown. Leveraging federal procurement to narrow the racial wealth gap. Oh, you talked about race. You can't talk about that. See, you talk about race. Oh, you're promoting racism. Leveraging federal procurement to narrow the racial wealth gap for Black entrepreneurs. Oh, you said Black. You can't talk about race. No, that's racism. See, you said Black. See, you can't talk about that. You're supposed to be transparent. You're supposed to be no color. Recognizing that the federal government spends more than $650 billion each year on purchasing goods and services, President Biden has directed agencies to use federal purchasing power to grow federal contracting with underserved small businesses. He has set a goal of increasing the share of federal contracting dollars to small disadvantaged businesses by 50% by the year 2025. That's 3 years from now. Projected to translate to an additional $100 billion to minority-owned businesses and helping more Americans realize their entrepreneurial dreams. Okay, see, now the reason why it can't be race specific and just for Black people, like I discussed and broke down before Walter called in. So I shared with you the 1964 Civil Rights Act that he has not read either. Okay, at archives.gov, Title 6 of the 1964 Civil Rights Act, non-discrimination in federally assisted programs. Section 601, no person in the United States shall, on the ground of race, color, or national origin, be excluded from participation in, be denied the benefit of, or be subjected to discrimination under any program or activity receiving federal financial assistance. It's illegal to have policies only for one race of people or race-based policies only for African Americans, policies only for Latinos, things like this. Now you can have them for quote unquote minorities. Some people say, oh, like this right here. Okay. So for instance, people will say, oh, why is it for minorities? Why is it for minorities? Like when we deal with procurement, right? As somebody that's actually managed the African-American company that had government contracts with the city of Detroit, the county of Wayne, and the state of Michigan, as somebody who's actually put in bids for government contracts and won, and we had minority business enterprise, the certification, minority business enterprise, small business enterprise, women, was it women business enterprise also. When you put in bids on government contracts, you get extra points for having those minority certifications. A lot of these government contracts is on a point system. Okay. It helps you. This is what happens when you don't know what you're talking about and you don't understand how to navigate the system. What it is to your benefit to have those programs that are minority owned if you know how to use them. What we should be focusing on when you have programs for minority owned businesses or minority contractors and things like this, what we should focus on is being the majority of the minorities getting the money. But if you're just sitting up complaining, just running off at the mouth, have no clue what you're talking about, you get locked out of this. That when they have set asides like that, we should be focused on how do we become the majority of the minorities getting the money? Because the majority of our employees were African Americans. So I know what it's like to have to do payroll. I know what it's like to get the check from the county, and then you pay your employees and things like this, right? That's what happens when you have people have absolutely no clue what they're talking about. So when I hear people say we don't want minority set-aside programs, I'm like, you out of your mind. You have no clue. Okay, go run that on somebody that don't read. Let's go to John, line 2. John, welcome to the African History Network show. Tell us where you're calling from, John.
Thanks. I'm calling from Detroit, the east side of Detroit.
All right.
Thank you, Hotep, for educating the public. Because that character called you, he don't read nothing. He just go by what the Republicans say. So with proxies, all that stuff. So thank you. And I don't think I wish that you could be on the daytime to let the people know where to go to WhiteHouse.com and pick up all the knowledge and so forth. Because at daytime, the talk shows don't on this thing, they don't talk about it like that. I call them several times, show where to go. And pick up and have someone on to represent WhiteHouse.com so they can know, people can know how to get the information and knowledge and get their money and so forth. I think President Joe Biden put a lot of money in Detroit and tell them how to get their money. That's what I think about it. So I want to thank you
thanks, John.
For educating the people and keep up the good work, because like you said, some of these dumb crowds don't read, but they want to talk about it. So,
right.
Thank you.
All right, John. Thanks. Appreciate it. Also, we talked about this here on the show before. $700 million is coming to Detroit public schools from the Biden-Harris administration. It's going to be used to renovate 5 schools. Last time I heard, 5 schools here in Detroit public schools. Fox 2 News has an article. WXYZ Channel 7 has one. But this is from Fox 2. This is the first one I could put my hands on right now. Detroit public schools to invest $700 million to update buildings. That's from the Biden-Harris administration. Okay. Just so people understand how money flows. Federal annual. I was reading through the 2023 federal budget from the White House. I think it's about $6.9 trillion. There's money in there for everything. Okay. There's money in there for everything. All right. Now we're coming up on our last break. When we come back, we're going to deal with this story dealing with Haiti. Okay. Haiti had to pay reparations to France. That is the equivalent to $560 million in today's dollars, which is one of the main reasons. Yes, Haiti had corruption, just like the U.S. has corruption. But yes, Haiti had corruption, but this is one of the main reasons why Haiti is so impoverished today. Okay. You listen to the African History Network show. I'm Michael Imhotep. We'll be back in a few minutes.
STEM Forward, helping our community find their place in the emerging fields of science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Join us for our monthly live stream on our website, stemforwardedu.org. Watch, subscribe, share. Also join our mailing list to stay up to date with STEM resources and opportunities. STEM Forward, the future is now. Watch, subscribe, share.
Welcome back to the African History Network show. All right. I want to go to this story here dealing with Haiti, and it deals with a series that the New York Times has done and a ton of research they've done on Haiti. We're going to go to that clip here in just a second, Jalen, from PBS NewsHour, clip number 3. So I saw this story this morning on New York Times homepage because I read New York Times and Washington Post every day. I have digital subscriptions to them. So this is one of the articles that I saw. The ransom, demanding reparations and ending up in exile. And this is about former President John Bertrand Aristide, former president of Haiti. A firebrand Haitian president tried to hold France to account for its years of exploitation. He soon found himself ousted from power. This is from May 20th, 2020. And he demanded reparations from France. We know Haiti was a colony of France. Haitian Revolution, 1791 to 1803. He's going to be taken out of power, forced out of power by France and the U.S. Okay. Then you have this piece here from also for the New York Times that is called 6 Takeaways about Haiti's reparations to France. Six takeaways about Haiti's reparations to France. And the first thing they talk about is the double debt that started it all. The double debt that started it all. In 1825, an emissary from King Charles X of France came ashore and delivered an astonishing demand. France wanted Haiti to pay reparations from the people it had enslaved. France wanted Haiti to pay France reparations because of the Haitian Revolution. Okay. The demand was for 150 million French francs to be turned over in 5 annual payments, far more than Haiti could pay, So France pushed Haiti to take a loan from a group of French banks to start paying. Okay. Now, the group of French banks, okay. So the true cost to Haiti then and today, in all, they added up to about $560 million in today's dollars that Haiti ended up paying to France. I want to go to this clip here from, this is from the PBS NewsHour. Hundreds of years after Haiti paid to be free from slavery, the costs are still being felt. Let's go to clip 3, Jalen.
The island nation of Haiti often makes headlines in the midst of crisis, but there's less attention paid to the factors underlying its status as the poorest nation in the Western Hemisphere and one of the most unstable. The New York Times has conducted an unprecedented investigation into those root causes and is putting a harsh spotlight on Haiti's former colonizer, France. My colleague Ali Rogan has more.
To learn more about this sweeping investigation, I'm joined by Catherine Porter. She's the Toronto bureau chief of the New York Times, and she's been covering Haiti since its devastating 2010 earthquake and led the team that pored over centuries-old documents and archives for this story. Catherine, thank you so much for joining us. How did your team come up with this idea?
Well, as you mentioned, I've been in Haiti since 2010, and I think I've been back more than 30 times. And any journalist that spends any time in Haiti asks the question, like, why is it like this? Why is the poverty so bad? Why is the infrastructure so bad? And why is it so much worse in other countries around it? And the obvious answer is often given as corruption, which is true. But reading a book on one of my trips there, it mentions this thing called the independence debt that Haiti had paid to France after winning its independence, had then been forced to pay in cash. And it just stirred it planted a seed way back then. And I started looking for more and more information about this.
Yeah, let's talk about how that independence debt came to be, because I think as some people know, Haiti was founded by former slaves. They overthrew the French colonial rulers in 1804, but not long after that, they ended up paying France. Why?
Yeah, and they called it reparations, which is so mind-boggling now. 25 years, at 1825, 21 years after the first Black nation of the Americas was formed, a battalion of French ships arrived with a message from the king, basically saying, either you give us money or prepare for war. And at that time, Haiti had been completely frozen out. America, the United States would not deal with it. Britain wouldn't acknowledge it. So facing war and desperate for international recognition, the president of Haiti at the time agreed.
Right. And you've dove into how much those so-called reparations would equal in today's money. You've also looked into the value that was lost to the Haitian economy because of so much of this money and the interest on these payments going out of the Haitian economy, not going to Haitians. So tell us about those figures.
After we did all that research, we collected the figures and we were able to extrapolate what the opportunity cost was to Haiti. So if Haiti hadn't grown, if the economy had stayed as stagnant as it had been throughout the 1800s, it would have added $21 billion US dollars to the economy today. If the economy of Haiti had been boosted and grown at the same rate as the average rate of Latin American countries around it, it would have been a staggering $115 billion.
Of course, the United States also has a long and sordid history with Haiti. What did you find out about that relationship?
Well, what was really interesting is that first you had these French colonial masters, and they held a tight grip on Haiti long after independence. And finally, the way that they held on to the financial strings of the country was through the Haitian National Bank. And soon enough, American banks took an interest in the Haitian National Bank because, as we saw increasingly, more and more bankers from around the world saw that this was a place that, despite how poor it was, they could get rich. So we discovered that one of the reasons the United States invaded Haiti and occupied it for a very long time, starting in 1917, was because a bank that is now known as Citigroup had really prodded the State Department to go in and secure its interest in the Haitian National Bank. And that then quickly developed into a full-fledged occupation. So part of the impetus was financial interests of Wall Street bankers.
Catherine Porter with the New York Times, thank you so much for joining us.
All right, pause it right there. Okay, great reporting there. And that was Catherine Porter for the New York Times. Okay, if we look here at one of the facts here, the U.S. treated Haiti like a cash register. We know that American military invaded Haiti in the summer of 1915. The Marines, U.S. Marines entered Haiti's national bank and took out $500,000 in gold. Okay, now, this right here, you're looking at National City Bank. National City Bank was the predecessor of Citigroup. Okay, National City Bank was the predecessor of Citigroup Bank, and along with other powers on Wall Street, it pushed Washington, D.C. to seize control of Haiti and its finances, according to decades of diplomatic correspondence, financial reports, and archival records reviewed by the New York Times. If we back up here, it talks about the general who led the U.S. forces in Haiti said years later, describing himself as a racketeer for capitalism, quote, "I helped make Haiti and Cuba a decent place for the National City Bank boys to collect revenues." Okay, read this other piece here from the New York Times. 6 takeaways about Haiti's reparations to France. All right, we're out of time here on the African History Network show. You can support us, $ TheAHNShow through Cash App and through PayPal, paypal.me/TheAHNShow. Visit our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. We'll see you over at African Liberation Day at Al Kibalan Village and the Charles H. Wright Museum of African American History. Remember, right now it's correct. Wrong behavior is not over till we win. Wakanda forever. We'll talk to you next time. Talk to you tomorrow. Peace. All right, stand by. Okay. All right, look, we have to get out of here. Be sure to register for my online history classes. We have the information at AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, and we'll post the link here. We'll post the link here as well. If you missed the classes this weekend, as soon as you register, you can watch them because we have them archived. All right, we have to get out of here. Talk to you next time. Peace.
Mental health and well-being have long been a taboo subject in the so-called African-American community. So I enlisted the help of mental health experts, thought leaders, and activists to help kill the ghost of Willie Lynch and heal from post-traumatic slave syndrome.
We experience trauma a lot of times on a subconscious level. So sometimes something happens to us and we know that it's traumatizing, but we don't really recognize the extent of the trauma.
The work that I do is larger than the fashion industry. It's larger than the art world. And I believe that I was born to bring newness into this world. I'm Kaima McIntyre. I'm 24 years old and I'm an artist. I create everything from paintings to jewelry design, metaphysical jewelry to be specific, and fashion design. The only reason why my prom dress went viral is because people needed it. Within a few days of going viral, Notori Naughton reached out to me and she's like, I saw your dress, can you make me a dress? I was equally as shocked to be asked by a celebrity to design their dress at the age of 17. That's just one person, and the list just continues to go on to Janet Jackson, to Tyra Banks. It really hits home. That means that the discussion is happening on the grounds in real time.
What does self-care mean to you? To us, it's an opportunity to reconnect with nature. A chance to create something remarkable. At Sage and Elm Apothecary, our handcrafted skincare and household products immerse you in Earth's sweetest nectar, connecting you to nature in a way you never imagined. See for yourself and visit us at sageandelmapothecary.com.
iRedify is a Black-owned digital platform that showcases Black and Brown cultures and people. The books on the platform are written by African-American authors, Afro-Caribbean authors, African authors, and so much more. Kids 14 and under can read ebooks, listen to audiobooks, and complete learning activities. Kids can even write in the books digitally. Get unlimited access to everything on the platform for only $8.99 a month at iRedify.com. Sign up for your membership